This is what you get in the box. You get the luggage rack. This is the upside down. Look at it. There's a full post with little plastic protective caps on them. They come off when you actually mount the luggage rack. So this is the underside. And you notice the holes around here. These are for allowing moisture to evaporate out of any of the tubes that might collect condensation. And also when you're welding, you normally need to let some of the air out as it gets heated inside, and that can cause some issues with warping and so on. So you put a little hole in and it allows the hot gases and air to escape while you're welding. The first thing to do is to take the rack and get it the right way around. In the photographs on Amazon, they have this shorter section piece at the backrest end and then the full width curved piece here on the back. So what you want to do is place it on the lid, and this lid has got some curves on it here. So what you want to do is make sure that you get these little mounts here on a flat surface here and also down here, and you'll notice that this one on this side, there's actually a curve just here. See if I can show it better. There's a curve just there, so you want it on the flat just here, and then over on this side you want it identical with the same sort of distance away from this curve on here. See if I can get the reflection to show it up more. So you want to get that right there, and then again moving around to here, you want to get this distance just here, along here and this way. You want to get them all where you think it fits nicely, so it will be on a flat surface on all four of the pegs, and it shouldn't rock. If you get any movement on it, then you need to just wiggle it around. You should step back and take a good look at it from a distance and see if it looks like you've got it right as well in relation to the front. So Louis in there now on the box. I'm checking it on both sides. That looks fairly central to me. I'm going to measure it with a ruler just to be sure, but I think I've got that pretty much where I want it. The other thing you want to make sure is that when you open the trunk and you tip it all the way back, you've actually got complete clearance all the way up, so that the trunk lid comes up all the way back, and the back of the rack isn't touching too hard onto the seat back. So you want all full movement on here, so that it's all the way back as far as it can go. And I'll just move the camera and show you that from a different angle. So again, lifting up the seat, you want to make sure when the rack comes up, it's as far up as it can go with the rack not digging into the seat back there too much. This has got full travel here, and this is as far as it wants to go. This is a bit of a compromise between making sure that you're mounting points on a flat surface, and at the same time you have enough clearance in this point here to allow the trunk hood to come up. I'm just going to pull mine down just a fraction, but I don't want it to get off the flat surfaces there, so I'm just going to adjust it very carefully. I think that's about as good as it gets. I'm also lining it up with the back of the seat rest and also the BRP badge here. I'm trying to get that so it lines up in the middle, so that the thing isn't obviously twisted in any way. Look at it from all angles and make sure that it looks like it's right. And if you're happy and you think it fits, then you can move on. If you're not happy at this stage and it doesn't fit, this isn't the rack for you, send it back and look for another one. But this one certainly looks to me as though it's a really good fit. It's inexpensive and it looks like it's well finished. It's got a nice chrome finish on it. The welds look pretty good, and I don't think it's going to fall apart. I like the way it's made. it looks very much like a much more expensive one, and I've got it in place. So now the next thing I'm going to do is mark very carefully where I want the holes to be. And what I'm going to do for that is I'm going to make use of a marker pen, black marker, and I'm going to circle around and I'll put lines, little cross pieces, cross hairs where I've got it now, and then I'll take out the measure and I'll just measure down the sides and front and back and just mark them, and then I'll centralize that and I'll put a little piece of tape over that area, and then I'll mark it and drill through. So that's where I'm going next. So now I've got it where I think I want it, so very carefully I'm going to just draw and mark with a black marker pen. It won't show on the black later, and I can always rub it off with some mineral spirits, but I'm just going to mark where I've got these mounting points and mark them exactly as I can. I'm then going to go in and measure the distance as well and double check it, but I want to make sure I've got a pretty good idea of where they're all going to fit. When I drill these holes, I'm going to make them slightly oversized, and that will allow for the fact that if I drill them slightly inaccurately, it'll still fit. But also importantly, metal expands when it gets heated and it contracts when it's cool. It's fairly cool here today, and I've waited until the temperature came up into the 60s so that the metal has had a chance to get used to the temperature, but also for the plastic. You don't want to be drilling holes in plastic when it's a cold temperature. I won't go near plastic with a drill less than 40 degrees, and 50 is probably safer, and I'm up in the 55s to 60s where I am. So don't wait and do this in the winter time. Wait till the warmer weather. Okay, now I've marked those positions, and I should be able to carefully lift this off, and then I should be able to check those marks and see where they are. Now to measure this, I'm using a tape measure here, and I'm measuring from the edge of the boot down to this reflection line here. This is right on the bend. It's a fairly good way of getting the point for the accuracy. At the moment it says 4.5 there, and when I do it here it says about 6.5 inches, that is. And then if I come over this other side and do the same thing, I'm going to get, yeah, just about 6.5 there and just about 4.5 there. So you know, you can wiggle that until you get it right. And the same coming backwards, this one to the bend, just 4 7/8. Yes, 4 7/8 and 4 7/8. And then you can look at the front here and you can do the same thing. Come down the line, very careful. Try not to move it at all. This one says 3 5/8 to the very top shiny edge there. And then over this side, oops, move the camera, sorry about that. Coming around this side, I've got harder to get it in here, but I've got I've gone to this one, I've got 2 1/8 roughly. So I'm going to double check that again on the other side just to see if I got that right. So 2 1/8 on that side, on the left side. I'm going to do the same thing here, making sure I go straight out. And actually, I don't know if I miscalled that last one, but it's 2 1/8 on this side too. So this is lined up exactly where I want it. Now I've got to reproduce that, and there are various ways of doing it. You can actually lay down some tape. I've got some tape here, some 2-inch and some 1-inch. What I can do with the 1-inch tape is just peel off small pieces and very carefully just put them at the edge of where the mount sits. On all four sides, like this. And then I can do the same front and back. I'll come round this way around, trying to keep out of the way of the camera. Come around to this side and do exactly the same thing again. I don't want to move the rack at all now that I've got it positioned just about exactly where I want it. So this use of tape like this, obviously I don't want to put any excessive marks on the lid of the trunk, but now I've formed a little square there to the outside of those rubber boots, and I've left the rubber boots on deliberately right to the end, and when I take that off there'll obviously be more of a gap, but it will be an even gap all the way around. So I'm going to repeat now and do the same for the rest of these, trying not to bump it, just taking my time, putting the tape down. Now in reality, if you're fairly close, it's highly unlikely anybody will spot if you're a fraction off, but the aim of the game is to get it exactly as close as you can to perfection, and if that's not good enough for you, then you can always peel the tape off and do it all again. But once you commit yourself to drilling a hole, then obviously that's a different game altogether. So you want to make sure, just take your time, do this as many times as you feel comfortable with until you feel you've got it right. Check it when you lift the seat a few times before you get to this stage and after, and make sure that you've got these little boxes created with the blue masking tape. I like masking tape because it leaves no stickiness, residue on the plastic, but you can get that off with a little bit of alcohol, rubbing alcohol, something like that. Don't use anything too aggressive, don't go acetone or anything like that, because you'll attack the paintwork. But a light cleaner, the marker you used, that should also come off with a little bit of rubbing alcohol or something like that, something very lightweight. The watered down version is the best stuff. You don't want full concentrate alcohol. Okay, so almost done, just got one more to do after one more piece here. So 3 down, 1 to go. I'm going to put the tape on over here. Same thing again. And remember, you should check to make sure there's no wobble on this thing at all. It will be important to make sure that you don't have to stress the plastic. A little bit of movement is probably going to be okay, but again, you want to get it as close as you can. You can also put some like a rubber washer or something similar underneath these mounting sections here to absorb any vibration or marking of the lid. And if ever you wanted to take these off, you could go to the trouble of putting fiberglass filling it and then spraying it and things like that, or you could make it easier on yourself and just use some bolts and put them over the top and just screw the bolts through, and it'll just almost look like a decorative feature. Or you could use the bolts for something else. Okay, so now I've got all 4 sides on there, and the next stage is I'm going to pick this off very carefully, and there we are. I've got my mounting holes there. So because the camera wasn't mounted quite high enough for you to see all the way around, I'm just going to walk around now with the rack off the surface, and you can see that I've got these 4 squared off sections, and it's important to check the distance. Now you can measure this more easily from the front to the edge of the marker there, so from the front to here on both sides. Make sure it's the same. Make sure it's the same distance away from where the curve starts on both sides. These two are fairly close to the edge, and these are on pretty well on flat surfaces. It starts to curve about here. So, and again, you can measure from the back here where the curve shiny bit is, measure straight up, and also from this edge out this way to where the shiny bit is. Repeat that measurement in the same place over here, up this way and out that way, and then finally up from the shiny piece here up to there, and then to there. And if you're happy with that, then the next stage will obviously be marking it and drilling a hole. So I'll come to that in a minute. So I'm going to recheck my measurements from the front here to there. It's 2 7/8 from the front edge here to that line there, to that edge there. I'm going to try the other side over here, which I don't think you can see from the angle. This is a little bit less, so I might have to make an adjustment here. This is about 1/8 of an inch nearer that way, so I'm going to double check that one. And then the one off the back here, same thing. I'm going to take a measurement from the edge. This is about 4 3/4 there. This one here is about 4 3/4. I'll tip the tape over so you can see it possibly. So that's about 4 1/2 there. It depends where you're measuring from, so be careful you're consistent. Try and do it in the middle. That's 4 3/4 there to the middle of it, just about there. And that's the same over here. If I use the same edge of the tape, careful when you're using one side or the other, because that can change the sizing of it a little bit. The same over here. I'm going to just double check this one. It says 2 1/8 here from the front edge using the tape this way around like I've got it here. And 2 about 2 3/8 on that side, although the tape measures not quite up, so you've got to watch that. And then coming off the side here, I'm going to do the same thing from the bottom edge. I've got to the shiny bit at just over 4 1/4, almost 4 3/8, and off here I've got to the shiny bit, I've got about 6 1/4. So 4 3/8 and 6 1/4. Looking for that on this side. Okay, 4 1/2. And 4 3/8, about 6 1/2, and I'm going to feel there. That's probably about 3/8 or 5 millimeters away from where the bend starts here. I'm going to go around the other side, just double check that as well. This is probably just a tad nearer this edge here where I put the tape, so it's possibly needs to go that way just a fraction, and then the same on here. It's this is a long way away from there. That feels about right there. So I'm going to just put it all in place again and just look at that, eyeball it again. Now these welded on struts down here, the mounting points, not always going to be exactly the same. When they weld these things up, they don't always get it exactly right. So you might have some minor discrepancy, but it's more important that you get the thing in the place that looks right and feels right. So look at it and make sure it doesn't look twisted, and just feel it and see if it feels good. Now this one to me feels perfectly good there and here with the boots on and everything, and this one feels just about right there and there. So I'm very happy with that, even though the measurements were possibly just a fraction out when I measured it tape on to the masking tape. It actually fits very nicely. There's a tiny amount of rock, but I can just move it just a little bit until that goes away. What I don't want to do is be hanging over the sides of the curves on either side. So I'm going to go with that. That's still well within the parameter and it feels good there. So now next I'm going to mark and drill the holes with a small drill, and then I'm going to get a little screw of the right size and gradually widen the hole until the screw just fits, and I'm going to see how accurately the screws fit into the bottom of these, and then finally I can enlarge the hole slightly to give myself a little freedom of movement to allow for the expansion, and also to allow any adjustment that I might need for slight errors in my drilling. So let's get on with that next. I've put the rack back in place on the trunk lid, and I'm just going to test it one more time, lifting it up to make sure that it goes all the way up without fouling on the back seat. So I'm coming all the way up now, and that's as far back as it needs to go, and it's just touching the material on the back of the seat there. I'm happy with that. If you move further down this way, because of this moulding here, the tapering, it actually gets narrower down this way. So this comes this way in, this comes this way in. So if you move it further back too far, you'll find that these mounting posts are actually getting nearer and nearer to this little rolled off edge here. So keeping it as far forward as you can within reason will keep you on the flat part on here, and this on the flat down here. That's what you want. So that works. Now the next thing is, this is a scary bit. I'm going to take this off. I'm going to mark and drill the holes. Here is another little tip or trick you can do to help with alignment. I'm taking these two pieces of paper and I've just taped the joint here to make a large piece of paper, so I can put the rack on here and use this to actually mark up where the holes are going to be, like on there. But I'm going to do it upside down. So the key now is to turn this over, turn the rack over. I'm going to take off these little protectors now. You shouldn't need these anymore. I'm going to put that there. This is the front, this is the back. So I'm going to put this paper on here with these tabs on the side of here, but you could write front on these, and I'm just going to very carefully put it on here and fairly close to the front. You could put a line across here if you want to be exact, but I'm going to just push a screw in there. I'm using one of these, and I'm going to just pull it tight, and I'm going to do the same thing again just over here. Like that. With the two pins in place here, I'm now going to do the next bit, which is to put two more marks over on that side. So, same idea. I'm going to just hold this fairly firm, fairly taut, and I'm going to just push this, find this with my finger. There is one trick you can do, which is to actually rub around the paper like this, and you can actually take a marker and you can actually dot it like that in the middle, and you've actually got the right marking and the outline of where the pillar is. I use that a lot for a lot of assembly work that needs things put on studs or gaskets being made, things like that. But putting a screw down the hole that fits, you know, not a screw in necessarily, but now I'm going to just pull that tight, and again I can rub around that one like that. And if you've got slightly greasy, dirty finger, that's even better. You can put a little bit of pencil on your finger, and then that will show up even more. But then when you press it through, you'll know you're in the middle. And if you want to do it on all of them, you can just pull it out. Get that one out. Lower it back down. Rub around. And just make sure everything lines up nicely. That one, when I put it back on, it's just a little bit off. So I'm going to just push that down there. And then this one. Remember, the paper will stretch a little bit, but there's also a curve on the trunk lid, so you've got to take that into account. So again, you put that on there, just rub around it gently with your finger, and you'll be able to find that you're fairly accurate. So now I've got a piece of paper with a template basically of where the holes need to be drilled. This is the front, this is the underside of it. So when I take this off, it's going to roll over this way, roll over this way. So I'm going to pull these out now. Now, like I said, if you want to be highly accurate, you could actually draw a line parallel to this first place where you're going to put the marks across here to make sure it's parallel to an edge first. I got it fairly close by eyeballing it, but I'm going to now take this off and I'm going to put it onto the trunk lid, and we'll show you how we go on to make the marks from there. Here's my piece of paper. Remember the front that I wrote on, I press the pins through into the holes in the top of the mount holes for the rack. I've turned it over. This is the front here, this end. I'm now going to lay this over on here, and I'm going to very carefully place this over the first hole as close to the center as I can get. And I find by lifting and lowering several times, my eyeball can work out pretty well where that hole needs to be. So I've dotted that on there, and I'm going to come across to this one. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to put my thumb there just so it doesn't move, and I'm going to make sure when I put this on here, same thing again, I'm going to lift it and lower it, lift it and lower it, making sure I feel comfortable where it is. And I'm going to draw a nice black spot. Again, keeping it all still, I'm just lifting and lowering, and I can, your eye is very good at working out positions like this. So by doing this, I can see where the dot comes. Now I can only see this dot where the light's shining on it, and you could use a different color marker. Of course, you could get some white or something like that if you wanted to, but the idea is, if you do this, you should be able to see, if you can get the light reflecting off the surface well enough. I'll move around to get some daylight reflecting on it. Make sure this one shows up. There we go. I've now got all of these marks on here. I can look at them in the reflection. I've got a light up here, and I'm looking at the reflection here, and I can just go over and just dot them up. And I want to move them slightly more to the middle, but not too much, because they're fairly accurate anyway. Alright, so just take your time, dot them in. They're all looking really good. And when I've got those marked in, then I'm very happy with those. So what I'm going to do next, if this is your like scary moment, is I'm going to actually drill a hole through. So, but as with all things, before you drill anything, just do your final double checks measure your distances to the reflection. This one says 2.5 there, this one says 2.5 there, this one here says 5 3/4 to that one, this one here says just about 5 3/4 to that one too. So I'm happy with that, it's close enough. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to take a little drill, and I'm going to drill, well, I say a little drill, I'm going to use a drill about the same size as these little screws I used earlier. I know these will fit inside the hole, and eventually the hole will get bigger. So if you haven't got it exactly in the right spot, when I put a screw through, I know I can take a little file, or I can move the drill over a little bit, and I can just enlarge these holes to make them so that I've got close enough. It's not that hard. It sounds more complicated than it is, but it's actually not that difficult. So let me stop the video for a second while I get organized. If you want to, you can actually then put a piece of masking tape over these and then reproduce the holes. You can get a little punch and mark very carefully where those holes are going to go, and then you can feel where they are, put a piece of tape over it, then feel for the hole and go through it. I'm going to do it with a drill directly on it, but I'm going to be very careful to try and hit exactly the spot like this. You don't want the drill skidding. I'm going slow speed. I'll just put a mark there. We'll do the same one over here. I'm using the trigger, I'm not pressing it fully, and I've got a drill that's just about the right size. You can see I've made 2 slight marks on this side. Take this a little bit deeper. Eventually it will be vertical, so remember that. So I've got those 2 marked. I'm going to do exactly the same on the other side on my reflection on the. So go very slowly with your drill and lean it at the slope of the plastic until you've made a little dimple, and then you can straighten up right and start going down the rest of the way. Don't go all the way through in one go, just take your time. So now I've got a hole there, there and there, and one more, again just looking for the reflection. Put it on here, going at the angle of the plastic, so I'm at right angle to the plastic, going so far through, and then when I've made a good dimple I'm going upright because that's how the pins are. So now I'm going to carry on through, and I'm going to go a little bit faster. I'm not going to press, I'm going to let the drill do the work, and I'm actually going to hold it up with my hand so that it doesn't go through like crashing the ball through, you know, through the china shop. So do it and try and resist. If you keep your hand on the drill and you rest your arm on the side, you can just let the weight of the drill with minor pressure and a reasonable speed. And it's normal to slow the drill down as you go through so it doesn't tear its way through. And you can usually feel when it's about to go through, and if you just back off the drill a little bit, you'll get your hole. And over here again, same thing. I've already gone through at an angle like this, and now I'm going upright with the drill, and I'm just going to go through using my arm to support and not too much speed. Now of course, if all this scares you too much and you're not really a practical person, you can just buy the rack and take it to your dealership, or somebody who'll do it for you, and pay them a little bit of money, and you know, they take the risks and you get the reward. But to me the reward is very satisfying to do this stuff yourself and save yourself quite a lot of money. I'm not one of these people who has, you know, loads of money in the bank. I'm what I call a penniless dreamer, which if you look at my books on Amazon, you'll often find me mentioned as a penniless dreamer. And the idea is all the things I've ever done in my life have always been as cheaply as possible. I used to fly experimental airplanes, and I got into those because I couldn't afford to learn to fly a Cessna, but I wanted to learn to fly. And actually I think I had more fun flying the experimental airplanes and enjoying that than probably I would have done flying a Cessna. And if you want to find out about that, my book about my adventures in flying ultralights and microlights is on Amazon. Just look up Kevin Rutland or go to the link in the description below this on this video. And I've also gone about hovercrafts. I got into building hovercrafts, which generally you could pay like 35,000 for a hovercraft, a new one pre-built ready to go, or you can build your own for about, you know, when I started building it was about 3,000 or 4,000. Now probably nearer 7,000 or 8,000. But you can build them yourself, and it takes time and you have to learn how to do it. But you build up your experiences step by step, and you learn by trying things and doing things. And once eventually you reach a stage where your confidence is high enough to allow you to do things like this without being scared off. It's not hard if you're careful, and I'm trying to show you the steps of how I do it so that you can see that this is not rocket science, this is not brain surgery, this is not operating on somebody's spine, this is just drilling 4 holes in a piece of plastic. And so long as you work out carefully where the holes should go, then you're good to go. And even if you drill them slightly wrong, it's not the end of the world, because you can use an enlargement drill. These holes are going to have to be enlarged anyway for expansion purposes, and if one of them's out in one direction, when you expand them, just work the drill or use a round file to move them in which direction you want them to go, and you'll never know. The foot will cover this hole. On the underside you can put a large, what they call a penny washer, and that'll spread the load, which is a good thing. And you'd put one of those on anyway, but it'll also cover any alteration of hole that you can see from the inside. You'll just see the washer and the screw that comes through from the bottom. And on the top here, if you've made a real pig's ear of it, again, just get yourself a washer, preferably a rubber one, which you can make yourself, by the way, but you can buy them in any of the hardware stores to fit the size that you want. And just put a rubber washer on here, or even a nylon one, and it will cover up a multitude of sins. And you can also put things like silicon sealer, black silicon sealer on here, and they'll blend in and nobody will ever know except you. You know, we all know our mistakes and errors, but unless we point them out to other people, they won't see them. So anyway, have confidence in yourself, and you learn by doing things, by doing it step by step. All the little mods and projects I do on this bike that I show you, they're all doable by anybody who's got no talent or previous experience, providing you take your time and you think what you're doing. And if you don't like what you're doing and you're not comfortable, take it somewhere else. My videos are just for enjoyment and to give you some ideas of what can be done. I'm not endorsing anything, I'm just showing you what I use and why I put them together. And if it works for you, that's great, but don't hold me responsible if you screw it all up. This is my machine, I can do what I like to it. If I drill holes in the wrong place, that's on me. If you drill holes on yours in the wrong place, that's on you. Avoid drilling into wires and stuff like that, so make sure there's nothing underneath there you're going to make contact with. There isn't anything under here that's going to be an issue. So now I've got my holes drilled, we move on to the next step, which is to enlarge those holes a little bit so that the screws that they provide and the spacers that they provide can be fitted on. I'm just going to open up the packet now. Right, we get a handful of 4 screws and 4 of these little rubber caps which fit over the metal mounting tubes. That's to stop it scratching onto the plastic, by the way, but they'll also cover up if you've over drilled the width of your hole a little bit. But you could put a washer underneath these if you want to spread the load a little bit on the outside. Okay, so now I'm going to just fit these on, and then we'll drill some holes out and see how it goes. the screws that are provided are these ones. So I'm going to go now find a drill or an expanding drill, a step drill that will match this size or a little bit bigger, and then I'll be able to drill each one out with the step drill. And you can get a tapered drill which will allow you to infinitely change the size of the hole as you go through. Harbor Freight sells them. I can probably find them online, and I'll put a link below so you can go to Amazon. And I do ask you to use Amazon. Please use my links. It earns me a little bit of money, pays for all the things that I do. So if you can do that, that will help me. And certainly like and subscribe my channel. Thank you very much. Got some kids walking by in the background. You probably hear them. Must be kids leaving school time. I've got this drill sizing gauge here. You can pick them up cheaply again at places like Harbor Freight and so on, and they're very useful. Some have metric on one side and imperial on the other, but it doesn't really matter what it is. You just work your way with your screw through to the size that you want. This is feels like a 3/16 screw, and if I go the next size up, it'll be a nice loose fit. So I'm going to go with this size first, a 3/16, and once that works, I'll be able to, let me just put that through there again, show you in case I dropped it off the screen. So I'm going through with the 3/16 there, and then I'm using the 3/16 drill, which fits the same hole. I'll probably end up drilling out to this size, and I've got two options for that. Sorry, I'm banging the camera here, but I can use one of these continuous taper drills, which I like because there's no set amount. You just go down as much as you want. You come from both sides, and then you get a tapered effect through the hole. And I do also have a step drill, which is actually stepped off in sizes. And if you look on them sometimes, I don't know if mine still reads, the very bottom one on this is the 3/16. So I could use this, just get it in focus. I could use that end to drill through as well. But I'm just going to go with the traditional drill first of all, and then I'll probably use the tapered one rather than this step drill here. But you've got options. I'm going to go with the slow speed. The idea with the drill is that you can go with slow or fast, and you've also got control with the finger control, which is what I like to use. But the principle is the smaller the drill, the faster the speed. The bigger the drill, the slower the speed. And that's all you really need to know. So with this one, I'm just going to put this on here. Hopefully you can see where it is. I'm trying to get an angle that you'll be able to see. So I'm going to just put this on here, start it going slowly. I've got it vertical on the surface. I'm not drilling very fast, and there we go. I'm going to repeat that just over here. You can see I'm not going very fast. I'm not pressing the trigger very much, and I'm going to repeat this on all sides, keeping the drill vertical, even though it's on a sloping surface. And don't let it run away from you. You don't want it to skid off down the side. Now just brush away all this drill tailings here. What we call swarf. It's metal. It's called swarf. Now you can see the screws are just a little bit on the tight side. So that drill size is just a little bit too small. So now I'm going to take this one and just see if I need to clear it with that. So if you haven't got these taper drills, you can just buy a cheap set, again Harbor Freight or wherever you like. You don't need expensive drill bits. Don't buy ones for wood, buy ones that'll drill metal. Then you can drill almost anything, and you should be able to then use the next size up. You can buy metric, you buy imperial. Now that's still a little bit tight for what I want to do. It would screw in there if I was trying to tap these into the plastic. That would be a good size. But what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take this other taper. You could also use a file, a little round file, rat sail file if you wanted to. But I'm just going to put this in here, And I'm just going to go down just a little bit on all of them. And I'm just guesstimating. Now, I've got the holes there. That one fits okay. That one's a little bit tight. I'll do a fraction more on that one. That one's a little bit tight. And so I've got one good one and two more. And again, I'm just taking my time. I'm in no rush. There's nothing to rush about doing these things. You can feel the drill gently going down, and use your other arm resting on something as a backstop so it can't just crash. Don't hold it in two hands and do that. You'll just go crashing through like a big guy on thin ice. So you don't want to do that. Just hold it up with one hand and drill with the other. No real pressure on the drill. So now again I can check with one of the screws. That one's good. That one's got clearance. That one's got clearance. This one's got clearance. So now I'm going to put the little boots on the bottom here. Let me just see if I can see this in the camera shot. Just tip it up a bit for you. There we are. So these studs here now are what's going to go down on those holes. They supply these 4 little rubber caps, and they are little top hat type things. They just fit on over the top, and they're not going to slide off like a washer might. They are actually locating themselves because they do have this little cup section inside there, which I think if I come over here far enough without tripping over, you might be able to see that there's a, I don't know if you can, there's a cup in there anyway, cup shape. It's got a hollow, so you just put them over the top, rest them down, and now remember which way around the thing's going to be. It's going to go up this way and it's going to come down this way. So now what we want to do is we want to lift the flap up, and we want to get a screw, and we want to just not lift it up too far, just enough so we can get inside, and then we want to offer up a screw through one of the holes from below and just see if we can locate it and screw it on. Now these screws might not be long enough because this is a thick piece of plastic, it's got a curve, so you may have to go out to the store and buy yourself some slightly longer versions. And if you take them down to the hardware store, they can tell you what size the thread is on these things. Sometimes it's metric, sometimes it's imperial, and they can get you some longer screws. And if you have to use longer screws, you might need those penny washers to pack out the fit. So now these seem to be screwing in pretty well, so I may not use them all. So now I've got 2 on there, and I'm just going to show you with the camera now. Let me just take it off here for a minute. So those are the 2 screws in place. I've just finger tightened them through the hole. They both went right into the holes, exactly where I wanted them. You see, I didn't have to do any correcting. I just made them slightly bigger so that when they went through vertically. This is a curved surface, so you don't want to be drilling at an angle like this. You want to be drilling at an angle like that, but you always start off at an angle at right angles to where you want the hole, and then once you've got a little hole there, then you can, or not a hole but a divot, you can then tip it upright and then continue through the rest of the way. But you want to end up going vertically through, expand it with a taper drill like I've just been using, or just go up to the next size in your little drill packet, and you know, it's okay to go a bit bigger now. All right, so we've got that one on. I can lift this up, it goes back nicely. If I come all the way back here, you can see it's all the way back to there. It rests nicely, it stays up, it's going up as far as it can go. Just going to try and get back far enough to show you. So it's gone back as far as it can go. There's no blocking getting a helmet in or anything like that. So everything's cool there. So now I'm just going to lower this down. Well, in fact, I'll put the camera back on the stand and I'll film a little bit from the inside here. With the camera set up now, looking on the inside of the trunk lid, you can see I've got 2 screws in. They went in perfectly, so fingers crossed if I get the next 2 I'll be able to screw those in as well. And all I've got to do is find the 2, which yes, I have actually found them. So these next 2, and these ones, notice they do have like a little washer head on them. It's automatic formed as part of the head, so you don't necessarily need to pack in a washer under there. I'm just going to try them now, right now, and if I've done all this right, all the holes look like they're in the right places. And let's see, moment of truth, will they all screw into their holes? And of course the chances that they will just depends on how lucky you are. If you have to push one out of place very far, remember what I said, you can always enlarge the hole. This one for me is a little bit tight there, and it seems to be going into that one all right. If you remember what I said about using a taper drill rather than a straight drill, the taper drill being tapered, just show you that, will drill a taper from the outside. So I've come to the inside and I've actually just gone through, and I've drilled just through again on this side to use the taper to clear out the hole to make sure it's not binding on these 4 holes here. Having done that, I should now be able to put this back on again. So same thing applies as I was doing before. Put the little boots where they want to go, press them on. If you wanted to, you could put a little bit of silicone or something else in there just to stop them from water leakage issues later. But so the same thing again, clear the area, make sure you get the front out the front, lay them over the holes pretty well roughly with the little rubber boots on, and then lift up the trunk and get underneath the trunk lid, get 1 screw started in the hole. You can lift it up and move it around a little bit if you have to, but just try and catch it in the right place. Don't force it, it should just screw in. If it catches it and holds it, that's all you need for now. So now I'm going to do the next one. Same thing again, just going to lift it up, and I'm reaching underneath here. I'm looking from the outside now. I'm just going to put these through from this side and see if I can get the threads to bite. If they don't, I'm going to enlarge the hole slightly to make them match. And I think at this stage I'm just going to stop for a second while I get a little wrench so I can help turn them in. Now I've got it turned so that I can turn in the right direction to tighten up. A little lever here will reverse the direction if you want to undo it. And it's clockwise to tighten up and counterclockwise to undo. Or if you're in the digital age, it's coming around this way. We'll tighten up, and going that way, we'll loosen it off. So I'm just going to put this on here now. Scoot up just a little bit, just a couple of turns, making sure it's going on, and then I'm going to work to the front ones and do the same thing. And again, if it's not going to line up, then I'm going to take it off, and I'm going to actually alter these holes slightly, because there's a good chance they're not going to match up completely. I'm going to elongate the holes using these little round files. Some people call them rat's tails or rat tail files, but the little round files will fit these holes quite easily. And all you've got to do is just take one, put it in the hole, and just gently work it to whichever size you think needs a little bit more elongation. I'm working it to the outsides of mine, and it won't take much, and you might want to repeat this. After some careful checking, I found out that the thread pattern is actually a 1032, and I'm going to go up to a 3/4. I think they were 1/2 inch or thereabouts, the ones that are supplied, but I want them to be a little bit longer, so I've gone to a slightly longer length. I'm using crosshead screws now, so you need a crosshead screwdriver, or you could buy yourself some 1032 by 3/4 screws. When you put a washer onto anything, there are actually rounded edges on one side and there are actually flat edges on the other, so you really want to put them down with the rounded edge towards the surface that you're screwing to and the flat edge towards the head. That way these rounded edges won't cut into the material that you're tightening up onto. That's just another little tip. Okay, so now I'm going to put 2 more screws in, and hopefully they'll all line up now with a little bit of filing adjustment, and we should be almost finished. And like I said, the worst thing you can do is force these screws in. You don't want to cross thread the posts, because if you do, you'll have a real mess on your hands. But if you're patient and you just keep working them until they go in properly, then you should get the fit you're looking for. And once it starts, you can feel it going in. If you feel some resistance, then you know that it's actually not pulling down as well as it should. You could put Loctite on these threads, and if you're very careful and feed it in with very little Loctite, it will grip and it will stop them unscrewing. What you don't want to do though is some plastics, they don't like Loctite and they will actually craze, acrylics especially. I don't know what this one's made out of the top here. It's probably some thermoplastic that shapes when you heat it, but it may not like the chemicals that are in Loctite. So if you want to lock them in without doing that, you could use something like silicon, like multiple purpose silicon. You can buy the clear stuff, and I would put some of that, a blob, just over these and bond it, and that should be enough to do the job. And again, don't over tighten your screws. Do them absolutely comfortably tight, but don't crank them in like you need to put 1,000 pounds of torque on them, because if you overdo it, you'll just simply crack out your plastic, and then of course you'll be in a world of pain. Let's come through here, see what it looks like. I always like to start it by hand, and if it's too hard to start by hand, you probably need to just widen that hole a bit further. And once you've got them down, just back them off a 1/4 of a turn, so you're not absolutely crushing the plastic. All right, and there we have it, nice and secure. All that's left now is to peel off the tape on here. Adjust the camera again. So I just got it's on in place. It's solid. You can see the little rubber boots are on here. And now just go around and peel off all the tape and call it a job well done. You shouldn't have much in the way of residue off this masking tape because it's meant to be peel off. Mine's leaving the dust residue because it's very dusty in here over the winter, even with the cover on. The trikes get a lot of static build up and they attract the dust very easily, and you can clean them beautifully, and then within a few minutes they will be pulling in dust out of the air. And my carport is open at one end to the wind, So if we get any breeze at all, it just fills up with leaves in here and dead leaves, and then dust comes in like crazy. So I have to give the trike a nice little wipe over. You can use some anti-static polish if you can get hold of some of that too. That helps a little bit. So I've taken my time. The extra length on the screws were right, so if you want to get yourself some of the right size, go for 1032s times 3/4 inch machine screws. Go for stainless steel, and the same with the washers you use. They're a few pennies more, but they're going to save you issues with rust down the line, condensation rust and all that. And I'm very proud of that. I'm going to take the camera off now and just move it around and show you what it looks like. So here we go. Stopping the camera now. This is the final result. I'm really proud of it. Went on really well. It was a good price. Now you may say, well, it's cheaper just to buy one and have somebody else fit it, and if you've got the money, do that. I'm a penniless dreamer guy, so I do things as cheap as possible myself. I like doing things myself. Over the years, I've always learned to do things myself. From about the age of 12 or so on, I was working on cars and motorbikes and all sorts of things, all the way through experimental airplanes and all sorts of motorcycle maintenance and vehicle maintenance as a hobby. I'm not a professional, so if you're following this video, do it at your own risk. This is just purely for your entertainment and to show that a person can, if they want to take the time and be careful, they can fit their own rack and they can come out with a great result, and it won't cost them anything like the amount of money they'd have to pay if they had it done by somebody, and if they bought one of the expensive racks from some of the suppliers for Can-Am. But you know, you get what you pay for, and I'm not saying this is any better or worse than any of those. They may be a lot better than those with chrome thickness quality and all that sort of thing, but for me this works great. It fits nicely, it looks good from all angles, it's very solidly on there. The whole trike is shaking. As I shake, nothing's moving at all, and it just works, looks good. And it's the backrest piece here is far enough back so that backseat passenger isn't going to hit there, but at the same time, when I open the trunk, you can see it comes up nicely. This opens as far as it will want to go anyway, and it just rests itself there, which is really nice. So that's how it looks there. I'll just step around a bit more. On the inside there's not much to see. You've just got 4 cross-headed screws, and that has done the trick. I made them longer than the supplied ones, but the end result is rather special. So there we are. Shut the trunk back down again, clamps down nicely, and you've got a very attractive rack that will hold a good traveling bag or an extra helmet space, because I have found the problem with the Spyder, although it has a good amount of space, it's still not very much, because if you put a helmet inside here, that pretty well fills it up. I've managed to be able to put another helmet, second helmet, down on this side, and I tend to use the other side for tools and spares and things like that over there, and then the front has got like clothing and stuff in there, but there's not really a lot when you take into account the helmets. So being able to put one in a bag on the top here, or even an overnight bag on the top here, gives me quite a lot more ability to go out cruising and maybe do an overnight stop, and the thing looks great. You can put a net over it and clamp down anything you like, really. So job well done. Hope you enjoyed watching this. If you do hit that subscribe button. You know, there's something like 10% of people who watch YouTube videos actually hit the subscribe buttons and the like buttons, and you know, it's all right because we put them up there so that people can enjoy them. But the fact is, YouTube pushes the position of the particular channel up higher with more subscribe clicks. So I need 500 clicks minimum to move me up into the next bracket. I've got 408 or something like that currently. So if you come along and you're a newcomer, just click that subscribe button, please. And it's not going to cost you anything. It's all free, and all that happens is when you're viewing videos, you might see one of my new ones pop up into the list that you get into your home list. It's nothing else. It's not a hard sell, nothing to buy. You just need to click it and you're done. And then if you can do the like button, that also helps. That the algorithm that works YouTube counts those two things plus any comments that are made, and it says, okay, this is a popular video, we can move it up into a category because people are interested. So I hope you like them. As I say, help me out, please. Do subscribe, do press that like button, and especially leave a comment, because I will answer you if you leave me a comment. Do be polite, obviously, but leave me a nice comment and I'll respond. So thanks very much. I do appreciate anybody who's taken the time to watch through to the end. Thank you very much. So enjoy yourself, enjoy my rides, come along with me, and maybe see you out there. This is Spyder Rider Kev, out for now.